Howdy, and welcome to Book Your Give Here. We're Travel That Gives. I'm Lulu Lima, your chief travel guru. I hope this episode of Dream Now Travel Later inspires you to travel, and I invite you to give us the opportunity to help plan your next memorable trip. So grab your popcorn and enjoy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I've got Anjali from Visit Savannah, and we are really going to have an amazing cultural adventure today. So I am so excited to bring her in. So hello and welcome to our amazing live here. And so we are really going to be talking about Savannah today, in the heart and soul of it. And there's so much to see. I think we should start with a video. What do you think, Anjali?
I think it'd be great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. We're going to start with this wonderful video. Well, doesn't that make you want to visit Savannah already? So I'm going, okay, there's so much to do. I guess the first question that I'm going to ask you is, what do you think a good time frame is? Is it 4 days? Is it a week? Like, how do we start planning this amazing trip? There's so much to see in that 1 minute video.
I know. It's actually hard to squeeze all into a 1 minute video, to be honest with you. No, if anything, traditionally, we like to say, Savannah is the perfect 4-day, 3-night stay.
Okay.
And we say that mainly because, like anything, you want to go have a great time, but you also want to be enticed and tickled for more when you want to come. That makes you want to come back. So, and each time that you will come, you can kind of tap into different worlds and things like that as well. And we can talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah. And so, and there's so many different worlds that we can tap into. Because I think that's a great segment to my next question, which is, what are your favorites in terms of calling out? I mean, there's so much to do, whether you're talking about walking on River Street or shopping locally, food, like.
Yeah, you're excited. You need to come on. No, if anything, just to give you an idea, first off, to entice you as much as I can, Savannah is a truly walking city. We have over 22 squares. It's kind of like a 22 checkerboard like square. So this is definitely a city that you want to just lace up the sneakers and definitely come on it with your walking shoes. So times of the year, you want to make sure that you are in comfortable weather, for you to walk around like how you want to. July and August, I know it's not favorable, just mainly because it is the South. It is going to be hot, but your rates are going to be easy during that time, just being honest with you. But if anything, just on the different ways to kind of look and see and experience Savannah, you really want to get out and walk it. Some of my personal favorites, I am a foodie. I am a huge foodie person. So for me, like the Savannah Taste Experience, for example, is my favorite go-to. It's a walking food tour. They have different types of tours that can branch you around to different areas. For example, on the parts of Savannah, but my personal favorite is the one where they include kind of like the off the beaten path restaurants.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are my favorite.
We all want where the locals go, right? We don't want the chain and everything else. You know what? We can get the chains everywhere, right? So
yeah.
So let's really focus on that amazing piece of off the beaten path. I totally love it. And the other thing too is that you're not really far from beaches.
No, we're not. We're 18 miles from Long Island.
So exactly. So 18 miles is nothing. It's just a quick little Uber ride, or if you want to rent the car for the day, just to be able to go to that beach, or even just, take a bike, because you guys are really bike friendly.
We are bike friendly. Now, I will say that I wouldn't recommend you biking from downtown Savannah to the beach, but you can bike once you get to the beach, or, on the way out, hypothetically. You do have to take like a causeway and things like that. And we don't have one yet, but we are working on trying to get a biker's lane to where you could bike from downtown to there, but it's not there just yet, but we have that in the works.
That's awesome. So we'll definitely, for those of you guys who are planning your itineraries, we'll plan either for you to drive there, or we'll get you some type of car service to make sure that you're safe. And then once you're there, bike away.
Bike away.
That is super awesome. One of the things that I love about Savannah in general is the architecture.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about it? Because I know that there's so many time periods of there.
There are. So as you know, you have downtown Savannah itself, which is right on the river there. So I mean, history down there is going to date back to the early 1700s. So that's what you have from that area, where people would come in off the ships, and where James Oglethorpe landed and met Tamachichi, the chief Indian for that tribe. But then as you start working your way back from the historic district, you start growing with the time periods. You'll find architectural homes, things like the Kehoe House, which is mostly where you would look at the outside of the Kehoe House. Most people don't know it, but most of it's made of iron, because he wanted to basically show his money that way, but he painted it white to where you would have thought it was wood. So, I mean, it's things like that you will see just architecturally. Also, we're the home to the Basilica of Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, which we recently got that from the Pope the Pope, who gave us that wonderful honor that we get to say. And that basically says that we have a pretty nice behind cathedral. And it's just beautiful in its own way. It's a treasure. It's a treat. It's one to be seen for sure. It's one that kind of reminds you of as if you were in London or Paris or something and saw one of those other types of cathedrals. But if anything, it's right here in Savannah. And also architecturally, you're going to find, like I said, the homes. Like I said, between the houses, churches, and then also the details as far as even the cobblestones on the streets as well. You'll find that type of history as well. It's just so many little nooks and crevices, but again, not one that you want to drive around and see. You want to walk it. That's how you don't miss anything. And
that's super awesome. And the weather really allows for, again, that walkable piece. Again, we talked about, the summer months, but really there's not much rain throughout the year either. So if you have a little spurt or something like that, it's something just to kind of cool the temperature and just keep it going.
It will cool it depending on the time of the year. There are other times, I'll be honest, that's me. I'm just very frank with it. There are times when that rain made it more humid. So depending on the time of the year. But the blessing is Savannah is an open container city. It's literally from River Street all the way to Forsyth Park. So you have 3.5 square miles of complete open container, as long as it's in a clear plastic cup, which we're one of 6 cities in the United States that allows that. So pretty big things around so that we can stay hydrated along the way.
And that's, and that's awesome. And you can be hydrated with many different places to enjoy your spirits. Indeed. And coming to that, there's a great video that I'm actually going to show, talk about all of this amazing spirit options. So let's go here for that. So that was just a little treat into some of the signature spirits that you guys have. There's, it's all about the ghost, right? So there's a whole lot of history of the enchantment of Savannah. And so while you can drink and learn, we're going to talk a little bit about the enchantment. So let's have a little bit of a guide on what is it about it, Savannah, that has this enchantment?
So naturally, again, going to its erection of 1733. So we literally it's a city built on the dead. It really is. I mean, if anything, we are one of your top 10 most haunted cities in the United States. And so you have to remember there comes history with that. You're going to have things like Johnny Mercer, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Let's talk about movies and the book. If you even want to talk movies as well, Forrest Gump, an older one, but then we have recent movies, things like The Peanut Butter Falcon, was filmed all here in Savannah. The Rock did Baywatch out on Tybee, the beach, community and things like that. But nonetheless, it has its own enchantment with the spirits of it. It's going to give you good spirits and bad spirits. During the day, you can have the happy spirits, of, a mimosa or bottomless mimosa place for breakfast if you want, or you can go in the evening and be a little bit more daring and get the ghost spirits, along with having some Chatham Artillery punch to go with it, a signature drink to Savannah.
And that's awesome. And with signature drinks, there's also signature food.
Yes.
Yes. Now, I have a video to show for that. We're really going to talk about some of that flavor, right? Because Savannah, as you yourself call yourself a foodie, there's so much. You'll never go hungry. Nope. And there are amazing food tours that are going to guide you along the way. And there's and again, just oh my God, so much food. Let's talk about the food. What are the true Savannah dishes?
So we are known for our shrimp and grits, similar to our snooty sister over there in Charlottetown. We call it Charleston. But if anything, ours have a better twist on it. So shrimp and grits is definitely a staple for us. Anything where you have the Georgia shrimp here in Savannah, coming right off of Tybee Island, right off the boat. So anything with shrimp necessarily encompassed in a dish, you can't go wrong. Also crab cakes. We do have the blue crab here in Savannah as well. That's coming fresh off the boat as well. So anything like a crab cake or crab benedict, anything like that, you definitely want to enjoy that too. But then we have our own flair. So I would just say mainly seafood, barbecue. You kind of just can't go wrong with either one of those. And then don't get me wrong, we still have our good old fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, sweet potatoes, sweet souffle. Oh, that Southern comfort is definitely there. So hands down, one of my personal favorites, and I am a little biased with it, is if I want like a sit down in time just to enjoy, that meal with strangers, believe it or not, but in a family style environment, I actually love Mrs. Wilkes. Mrs. Wilkes' dining room is one of my favorites personally. You will have to stand in line, and she has some very interesting hours. So I strongly recommend you going online and looking at that. But just to give you an idea, she is closed the entire month of January. She's only open Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. It is cash only. And like I said, you have to stand in line, and she does not take reservations. So if that's not a laundry list of it, but it's worth it. Trust me.
Listen, we all have places like that everywhere around the country and around the world, right? So do you guys have any Michelin star restaurants or celebrity chefs?
So you need to pull up one called The Gray. The Gray restaurant was noted on the Food Network. They actually did something where they filmed in her kitchen and things like that. But it's a fabulous restaurant. It's actually, the restaurant is housed in the old Greyhound bus station. That's why I guess the name The Gray. So that is located here in Savannah, and that is just a culinary masterpiece there. Another kept secret is the Husk restaurant, talking about those spirits again. Yep. That the restaurant itself is in one of the most haunted houses in Savannah. Things always go wrong, nonetheless, to say, in that facility. And it's because of the ghosts that live there.
Yeah, they don't want to be disturbed, and
They
apparently
don't. They just don't want nobody there. So
too many
issues
of
happen.
them wanting to go.
Yeah, they're like, just get your food to go.
And that brings up another question. Obviously, with all the restrictions and things like that today, what are the restrictions in Savannah that somebody should know regarding COVID?
So regarding COVID, I strongly recommend that you visit our website, which is www.visitsavannah.com. And at the very top, you'll actually find a banner that has the most current, up-to-date things about our procedures and those that we call have taken the Savannah Pledge. The Savannah Pledge itself is basically committing those businesses that have agreed to be COVID safe. So something that you will want to be mindful of is that many places are so open and ready to welcome you. But certain things that, to no surprise, you will have to wear a mask. We have a mandatory mask ordinance going on, so you will need to wear a mask. But at the same time,
indoors and outdoors, or is it just indoors?
It's everywhere. So pretty much, even if you take a trolley tour right now, if you took a trolley tour, you still need to wear a mask the entire time. Now, once you get to the table, for example, like at a restaurant, you can take it off and enjoy your meal. But up until that point, you do need to wear your mask. And it's strongly, strongly encouraged. And we're trying to slow the curve.
Yeah, I think we all are. So
Yeah.
Which is great. And it's really amazing that you guys are open and we have that ability. And we can talk about it very openly in terms of, hey, it's business as usual, except for when you're not eating.
Correct.
Wear your mask, right? So it's super awesome. So with that, there's a lot of history that we did touch upon in regards to, the not only all of the amazing things that started in the 1700s, but also there's a lot of African American history that you guys have.
We do.
And so there's a video that I'm going to play, and then we're going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the other options that go with it. So let's see. Let's move on here. That was awesome. So let's talk about all of the history, because you guys have underground tours where you really learn a lot about the actual history itself and the civil rights movement and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So two tours that instantly, or two companies that come into mind, you have one of them is In Their Footsteps. The other one is actually going to be Also Social Tours. Both of them are African American history tours of Savannah that start as simple as literally from when they get off the ship from River Street. They literally are going to talk about the statue, the African American Monument Family statue that we have on River Street right now. That talks about the chains and how they're broken right there. On those tours, you'll also see things like the holding cells where, they were held until they were bought or traded, into slavery. You'll also find areas where talk about the Underground Railroad, where there's actually a tunnel, even though you physically cannot go through the tunnel, but it's going to talk about more or less how there is a tunnel that comes from River Street all the way to, for example, First African Baptist Church in historic Savannah, which is the oldest Black Baptist church in the United States. Inside of the church, you can actually tour it and things of that nature, but in the basement or in the bottom of the church where you can go as well on your tour, if you're wearing heels that day, just be mindful. Hopefully you aren't, because you need sneakers for the Savannah itself. But if you are wearing heels, be mindful, because you'll see holes in the floor, actually. And what those were breathing holes, so that way they could be held there, because of course when you were slaves or going over there to have meetings at the church and things like that, you had to store the slaves somewhere, so they were underground. So you'll actually see the breathing holes in the floor. But upstairs, like on pews, you'll see markings. And if you go over to Laurel Grove Cemetery, you'll see where, whippings took place, slave burials also took place. It's a lot of rich history right here, along with the Civil Rights Museum here in town.
It's amazing that you've preserved the history, and hopefully it's so that history never repeats itself, right? So
That's the prayer.
that's the prayer. So with that, there's also a lot of art galleries, and a lot of local artists as well.
Yeah. Yes. So Savannah is the home to the Savannah College of Art and Design. We call it SCAD, which we do credit a lot of their success and who they are to us as a city, because they have preserved so much of that history here in Savannah. A lot of those old buildings and things that we thought were just gone, they have come in and turned them into classrooms, or they've made them museums. Going to the museum side of it, you have the Jepson Museum, and also the Mary Telfair Museum, which also has the Owens Thomas House. So they call it all together the Telfair Museums, but there are 3 of them that they encompass, and it's going to be the Telfair Museum, the Jepson Museum, and also the Owens Thomas House and slave quarters, which again go into the African American history, where it's one of your oldest still intact slave quarters in the United States is still here as well. But all 3 of them do showcase both famous art, such as the Monet to Matisse, but then you also have local art as well, from our artists and those that are nearby or that can be on display. So they constantly have a running different series. Of course, right now with COVID, they're doing things virtually, but you can totally check them out at telfair.org, telfairmuseums.org.
That's awesome. And there's so many other cute houses as well. Like you have the Andrew Lowe house.
Yep.
So what is the concept behind that house?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Andrew Lowe.
Andrew Lowe. So the Andrew Lowe home, which is one of my favorites as well. So that is the marital home of Juliet Gordon Lowe, which was the founder of Girl Scouts, which you can also find her birthplace here in Savannah. So it's funny because when you look at where they are, she's pretty much moved 1 block over from her birthplace. It's like I left mom's house to go a block over to her married house. But that's, how it was. But, I guess back in the day with a dirt road and a horse-drawn carriage, it may seem like it's forever to get over there. But nonetheless, the Andrew Lowe home is beautiful in its own way. Gorgeous staircase. But what most people don't realize is right behind it is the original headquarters for the Girl Scouts, and where the first Girl Scout troop was actually started. That's where she started her first Girl Scout troop, in the garden of that home.
That's awesome. That truly a lot of the women's rights and that suffrage and all of that started with Girl Scouts and things like that. It's obviously a different type of movement, but it's all about girl power.
Yeah, girl, it's the 100th anniversary for us, so we're representing all things,
Exactly. That's why I wanted to make sure we brought it up, because there's so much history that goes on in Savannah. And then we're filming now in October, and so the holidays are coming up.
Yeah.
And so you guys are also really known for having some great holiday experiences.
We are.
So talk a little bit about what kind of experience could you have, between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all of that, and do a holiday trip there.
So kicking things off, I'll also say the weather is still mild, so that's a great plus that I just want to throw out there. Our winters are not as harsh as what anyone else's are. Last year for Thanksgiving, just to give you an idea, I think it was 75 on Thanksgiving, so. Now, granted, our weather is bipolar, like in many other places, but if anything, it's pretty mild and temperate, So if anything, you can always have that. But usually you kick things off right after Thanksgiving with Black Friday. And then that Saturday, I want to say, it's always the boat parade. It's always the boat parade that kind of kicks off the holiday season for us, where you have pretty much you sit on the river, and again with your cocktail, because you can, and you just look at some pretty boats. The old school traditional things where you used to go around and look at houses with lights. It's like, do a boat parade, So that's something that, you do. And it's a big deal because at that point, we kind of pause the city from shutting down right quick on the Savannah River, because Savannah is one of the largest ports in the United States. Yeah. So, we pause the cargo ships for a little bit, to enjoy the boat parade. But you don't want to miss out on my personal favorite treat for the holiday, and it kicks off the season, is at the Savannah Theater. The Savannah Theater is one of your oldest continual operating theaters in the United States. One of them, not the oldest, but one of them. And in that theater, they have something every year called a Christmas tradition. And I'm telling you, there's no other way to start the season than to watch a Christmas tradition. It's a Broadway musical style show, but it's one that you want to see. I don't know how to explain it to other than just come on to Savannah and see it, because it's beautiful, it's great, it's a nice cherry on top that can either kickstart your holiday season or end a perfect trip.
That's awesome. So guys, if you're listening, we've got a lot of clues here for your itinerary to Savannah.
Yep.
So I am super excited. And Julie, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any little pointers or things like that we may have missed in this little conversation?
I'm trying to think, other than, lose 10 pounds before you come, because you're going to gain it back on food. And if you're not a drinker, I mean, it's still other great things. Just because I may have said that we're an open container city, you can still see the beauty in it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe here. And it's one that definitely needs to be shared, and you need to visit all of it, each and every point of it.
And I love that. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and sharing this amazing city with us.
My pleasure.
And so I can't wait to come visit. I'm sure that in my future plans, I will be there.
Come on with it.
And we'll be doing a traveler's journey to show it off.
Wonderful.
So with that, thank you again for joining us. Namaste, everyone. Until the next time. Bye.